This first one here, I believe this is the first Halloween after me and my wife got married. She was Superman and I was Eazy-E. I don't know how well I pulled off the costume, but the idea was really cool. Funny enough, I had never seen anybody do this costume in person. I'm sure tons of people have done it, but I had never seen anybody. That year I went to a Halloween party and 5 other guys showed up dressed as NWA. Okay, this one here might be one of my favorite costumes that I ever did. And this was the year that me and my wife did Karate Kid. She was Mr. Miyagi and I was Daniel. I loved it. I thought we pulled it off perfect. Definitely my favorite couple's costume. Moving forward to after my son was born, we dressed him up as Mickey Mouse. Nothing special, but cute. My wife was a 50s girl. This was one of my favorites. I was Humpty Hump from Digital Underground. Of course, I made everything myself. I thought that it turned out great. I really loved it. And sadly, it really went unnoticed. When my son was around 3, this was a really great costume year for him and for my wife. Not so much for me. This was probably the best costume that we ever did for my son. We dressed him up as Prince. And since he had been around me watching so many Prince videos and listening to so much Prince music, he knew the moves, he knew the sounds. So he was walking around doing the little Prince shuffle, making the Prince noises. My wife that year was Vicky the Robot from the TV show Small Wonder. I even made this little panel that went on her back that looked like her circuit board. I put a bunch of little computer circuits on it and some flashing LED lights. That year I was AC Slater from Saved by the Bell. It should have been a great costume. I thought it was going to turn out really good. I used my authentic screen-used Bayside Tigers jumpsuit. I had my Bayside Tigers tank top. I made a buddy band. I couldn't find a wig that looked like Slater's hair. Probably like a week before Halloween, I found this clown wig. It was the closest thing to Slater's hair except for it was rainbow colored. And I sprayed probably like 4 cans of hair color on it and it just would not cover up the rainbow color. That's why there's really hardly any pictures of me that year. I think there might be one picture of me. I believe this was the following year. This was a great family costume. We did a Peewee's Playhouse costume. My son was Pee Wee Herman. My wife was Jambi. I was Miss Yvonne. All in all, I really love this costume. It is one of my favorite family costumes. Okay, when my son was probably about 5, this was another great year. I think all 3 of us had winning costumes here. My wife was Bob Ross. You can't go wrong with Bob Ross. We all grew up with him. We all love Bob Ross. My son was Bob's Big Boy. My wife made this costume. That year, the Bob's Big Boy restaurant in Burbank was having a Halloween costume contest, and my wife took my son down there, and he won first prize, which was a $100 gift certificate to Bob's. And for me, again, I think this was one of my favorite costumes. I didn't think it was going to turn out as good as it did, but I was Gallagher. Again, I just really didn't expect it to look as good as it did, and I also really didn't expect people to get the costume. We went out that night and people loved it. It was really a great costume, one of my favorites. I wish I would have kept it. I think I would have reused it. I would have been Gallagher again. Okay, this was another good year. My wife was Napoleon Dynamite, one of her favorite movies. My son was a Ghostbuster, one of his favorite movies. Not really sure why we put that big Elvis type wig on him. I think we just wanted to add a little bit of humor to the costume. And I was Atom Bomb, a Garbage Pail Kid. This was another costume that I thought turned out pretty good. I made everything myself. But again, unfortunately, this costume kind of went unnoticed. The next year was another good one. We did another family costume. We did Back to the Future. My son was 1985 Marty. My wife did Marty when he goes back to 1955 in disguise, and then I was Doc Brown. We did this costume on the year that Marty goes back to the future in part 2. So they had a big Back to the Future day at the Puente Hills Mall, which was the Twin Pines Mall in the movie. So we went down there, everybody was dressed up. Me and my son wore our costumes. They interviewed us for the news. We got into the newspaper. This was my Weird Al costume that I did a few years back. I kind of just slapped this together last minute, but I really like it. I like the way it turned out. I think it was a funny costume. This was a couple years back. Me and my wife did a couple's costume. We were contestants on Double Dare. By this time, my son had kind of wanted to start doing his own thing, picking his own costumes. So he really wanted to be this inflatable alien costume. I was kind of bummed about it, but actually, to be honest, it looked really funny. People really enjoyed it, so it was actually a pretty good costume. Okay, last year, 2019, My wife was Waldo from Where's Waldo. My son was Shorty from Killer Clowns from Outer Space, which he picked himself. That's one of his favorite movies. And I was Spicoli from Fast Times at Ridgemont High, which is one of my favorite movies. Right now we're putting together our costumes for this year, so once we get that all sorted out, I'll do a video. I'll show you guys what we decided on, and we're not even really sure what we're going to do with our costumes, where we're going to go, how we're going to celebrate Halloween. All right, that's going to do it for my costume recap. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys real soon.